Our next honoree was one of the longest tenured coaches in YU history, having served as men's fencing coach from 1949 to 1985. He guided his teams to more than 200 victories and lifted the program to prominence in the world of fencing. An NCAA All-American and Olympian in his own right, he became the only person to win NCAA medals in all three types of weapons. During his coaching career, he trained the 1960 United States Olympic team and would go on to serve as director of athletics here at YU. Here to introduce our second inductee, the late Arthur Tauber, is Matthew Schatzkis, and here to accept the honor is his son, Richard Tauber.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The cloak of wintry darkness is lifting, and the sun is late in setting. Passover is gone, and Shavuos, the festival of the giving of the Torah, and the long days of summer are before us. During these long Sabbath days, in their homes, synagogues, and study halls, Jews open their hearts to Pirkei Avos, the ethics of the fathers. Pirkei Avos is filled with rules of moral conduct, maxims of ethical behavior, and brief and meaningful formulations of wise guidance in everyday life. Professor Arthur Tauber of blessed memory, whom we called Coach, was an All-American fencer at NYU. He came to Yeshiva University in 1949 to be its fencing coach and also to teach physical education. He took a group of students who already had spent a full day in their Jewish and secular studies and molded them during evening practices into a fencing team that competed intercollegiately at a very high level and brought honor to the university. He did this year in and year out for many decades. However, beyond the coach-athlete relationship, there was the teacher-student relationship, the surrogate parent-son relationship. Most of the boys lived in a dormitory, and this was their second home. This distinguished and dignified individual never raised his voice. An angry word never left his mouth, and a look of anger never appeared on his face. He was a role model as a human being who not only built us as athletes, but drew for us a moral roadmap that we could use as ethical people in our future lives. He was our quintessential mentor and guide on so many levels. Clearly, there was a spiritual nobility to our coach because he lived and coached and taught according to the lessons and the ethics of our fathers. He embodied in intellect and deed what God had in mind when he said, "Let us make man in our image, as our likeness," meaning the ability to think and learn. Professor Arthur Tauber's name is a prominent jewel in the crown of the good name of Yeshiva University because he was someone whose deeds and behavior earned him the respect, admiration, and affection of all who knew him. It is a distinct honor and privilege for me to present for induction into the Yeshiva University Athletics Hall of Fame the name of Professor Arthur Tauber. May his memory be a blessing to his beautiful and wonderful family and friends. It is now a pleasure for me to call up Professor Tauber's son, Richard Tauber, for the formal induction.
Thank you. By placing this jacket across your shoulders, we hereby induct Arthur Tauber into the Yeshiva University Athletics Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Matt, for saying such nice things about my dad. And he'd never yelled at us, neither, as children. It's amazing. I would like to extend my congratulations to the other inductees tonight and to the inaugural Yeshiva Hall of Fame and to their families. My family would like to thank Yeshiva University Department of Athletics for inducting my father, Arthur Tauber, a.k.a. Coach Tauber, into the 2017 Hall of Fame. Sorry, I have a cold, so if I lose my voice a little. My father would have been honored to be here and accept the induction in person, but unfortunately he passed away about 2.5 years ago. My mother, Lenore, a.k.a. Coach's wife, would have loved to be here also, but she's now 95 years old, healthy as anything, but not healthy enough to make the trip up here. My family is here to help me accept this honor, and at tables 10 and 11, I have my lovely wife, Susan, my sister, Roberta, her husband, Sid. I have my son, Adam, and his fiancée, Christina, and we have the Coach Tauber's only actually child or grandchild that actually fenced. None of us fenced. I did it a little, but my niece, Jessica, fenced for Rutgers University. She's also here with our daughter, Stephanie, who was just bar mitzvahed last week, and hopefully she'll fence also, but she does have a love for softball. There are a few children in this world to get a chance to honor their parents the way I'm getting to honor my father this evening. About his accomplishments, what he meant to a lot of people, and every time I meet a fencer, it's a new story, a new chapter I hear about my father. Most of us go to work every day, and our children don't know what we're like when we go to work. But having a venue like this and hearing from Matt before, hearing from other venues, I get a whole new perspective of who my father was. Coach Tauber, as he was called by his fencers, started his sports career trying to play basketball for Stuyvesant Boys School. Fortunately, basketball was not his calling, and so he tried fencing. There, he excelled and found a sport he could embrace, work hard at, and be the best in. After Stuyvesant, my father went to NYU on a full fencing scholarship. During his tenure, he won numerous championships. And as described before, the one that he was most proud of, he was the only collegian to earn 3 weapons, foil, epee, and saber, at a national championship. And one thing that is not in the book, the NCAA, after he won, stopped any fencer from trying out in all 3 weapons. Shortly after college, my father was drafted and had to give up fencing for a time. I'd just like to read the following that my mother asked me to read before we go a little further. When Arthur started at Yeshiva University, he wanted to be a fencing coach and win as many games and tournaments as possible. Teaching young men, some who never even tried a sport, was a challenge, who tried to play in a sport, was a challenge for him. But over the years, Arthur not only became a coach, but became a mentor for many of his fencers. He used both his skills and an athlete as a mentor to get the most physically and mentally from his fencers. Arthur would always say he learned much more from his fencers than they learned from him. My family would like to thank all the fencers through the years that helped make Coach Tauber's love of fencing continue, continue long after he stopped fencing in competition, and this kept his love alive for the sport by letting him coach you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Yeshiva University.
My name is Matthew Shotskas. I captained the fencing team in 1961. That's 55 years ago. And the 55 years have not diminished what fencing meant to me and to some of the people that I still keep in touch with, because of the fact that Professor Arthur Tauber was our coach. And he was not only our coach in terms of athletics, but he coached us in life. And as impressionable college students, to hear this from somebody from the outside coming in and taking care of the boys in yeshiva, it meant a lot. And his demeanor, his ethics, his morals, how he carried himself, even after he finished with a full day's work and came to the gym in the evening time, And living in New Jersey, knowing that after he finished, he's got to travel to New Jersey, you would never know that the person was tired or had other things on his mind. His full focus was with us. And I am sure that this continues because, in a sense, fencing is a cerebral sport. It might look like, the fellas are just running around up there back and forth at each other stabbing, but you got to use your seichel, and that's what YU does. It gives you seichel.